Hi everyone, I'm Beth Water with Mother Cover. This is a follow-up conversation to my 4 Pillars of Parental Leave series, but this time we're focusing specifically on people leaders and managers and what it looks like to put better leave practices into action at the team level. So across the series, we've explored 4 connected pillars that shape whether parental leave actually works inside an organization, and that includes policy and clarity, budgeting for leave and financial planning, work coverage and transition planning, and then the return to work. In this conversation, we're talking about how managers and people leaders can use those pillars to better support their employees going on leave, protect the team, and maintain continuity and performance while somebody is out. And I'm very thankful to be joined by Dr. Amy Beacom, founder and CEO of the Center of Parental Leave Leadership and author of the Parental Leave Playbook. You should absolutely read this, whether you are going on leave yourself or reading it like me as somebody who has gone on leave and reading it in retrospect. I'm picking up so many tips of how I wish I had gone through my parental leave, but also how I wish I had shown up as a people manager as well. So tons of great points in there. Thank you for writing this book. Thank you for being here, Amy. You spent years helping companies and leaders approach parental leave with more intention, more structure, and more support for everyone involved. So thank you for joining me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we're going to take, the angle of how to help people, managers navigate leave. We've all have done it or will do it. If you're managing people, this is a normal part of an employee life cycle. So whether it's parental leave or any other type of temporary leave, we all want to be able to support our team members. But we often have other either constraints or things that we need to consider on top of that. So let's dive right into it.
Sure.
Employees going on leave is inevitable, as I said. So how can managers proactively plan to support the employee going on leave and the team during that time?
So I love where you were just talking about it, how this really is, and we talked about it in the earlier interview, how this is a predictable, normal part of that employee life cycle. So I shared over in that interview, but I think is important for this audience as well, that there's roughly 80% of employees will become a parent, welcome a child into their family at some point in that career life cycle. So this is not a one-off. This isn't this is just a standard part of work that we are still working to integrate into our processes and procedures here in the US. And we've come a long way, but we have a long, long way to go. And managers are at the front of it. They are like getting all the hits. So they are, I'm really happy that you're bringing this conversation to the managers. They're the stakeholder in this population that is so near and dear to my heart. Of course, the parents are as well. That's how I started this, is around the parents. But what I've really come to learn is how overlooked and overburdened the managers are. So I know the question was, how do managers proactively plan to help their direct reports, right, is what you're getting at. And I will speak to that, but I also want to expand it into how can they proactively, part of that is about themselves and what they need. And so often managers aren't told that. They're just meant to take that burden off of the plate of that parent and put it on their own shoulders and do that extra work. And I'm here to hopefully plant a seed that there's a better way to do it. There's a better way to do it. So as you start thinking about how to support that direct report that it will be going on leave, you're also having to think about how to support your team who will be left when that person is on leave. And what I have learned over, unfortunately, not the years that you said, Beth, but the decades that I've been doing this, is that having structure and planning ahead of time, ahead of when you need it, so that it is not an emergency situation. It's not a reactive situation. It's a proactive approach that you take is the way to go. Hopefully, organizations and HR are doing that. They're training their managers. They're using our trio of training. So they're learning about what are the leave leader behaviors? How do you make a family supportive workplace that works? What are the different types of leave? What's sick leave? What's FMLA? What's the Pump Act? What are these things? So that manager has some education and knowledge to help guide that direct report through. And then where are these moments throughout leave that my impact as a manager has an oversized impact? I think I said impact twice, but right, like has means something, really moves the needle, really makes this matter. And so thank you for plugging my book there and saying that, but it's the cheapest way to go and learn. Oh, that's so sweet. For managers to get a window into that employee experience and what those 10 touch point moments are that everyone is going to navigate through, and how they as the manager approach it will make all the difference. So that's like a cop out. I'll say more, but that's like, go read that and learn, because I also end each chapter with what are the leadership lessons of this touch point, and how do you as a people manager harness this entire 3-phase transition, preparing, during, and returning, over often a year plus of time, as a developmental opportunity for your team. So that is what it is. So if you're a manager who's still thinking of leave as an inconvenience, yes, it is an inconvenience. But it's not only an inconvenience. It is a massive, massive opportunity. And so Dr. Tugman,
Yes,
I remember, said it so beautifully, that there's technical expertise, and then there is people manager expertise. And oftentimes people are moved into management positions who have that technical expertise, but are lacking that people manager skill and knowledge. And if you're one of them, if you're a listener who's identifying as one of them, that's okay, because it's all learnable. It's all learnable stuff. And so as you're creating this procedure and this structure in these 3 phases for your team, you're also creating it for yourself and that direct report. So anyway, I'm talking for too long. So
No, that's perfect. And I think to reframe it in our minds too, or we look at it as leaders of, this is almost leadership development for ourselves as well. It's kind of a boot camp in how you want to be a people first leader and support not only the person going on leave, but the rest of your team. This is a great way to hone those skills.
And we talk about this as, it's not just a boot camp. It's a little punny, but I come out of a background of organizational psychology, executive coaching, and leadership development. And we used to run thousands of people through these offsite leadership development programs. And so I think of the parental leave timeframe, that whole, leave and return, as the mother of all leadership development experiences. And it really, really is. Everything that we taught in those is happening in this time frame in a real way, which means they're going to internalize it, that parent and that manager. It's personal, it's connected to them, it means something, it's not abstract, and it's already happening on the calendar. It's free. like it's happening. Like, just harness it as that leadership development boot camp.
How can managers become internal advocates for more supportive leave practices? So if they are in this situation now and they don't feel like they necessarily have the guidance, they're kind of building this themselves, how can they then bubble this up throughout the organization?
Managers usually aren't realizing the power they have. They aren't really understanding the force that they can harness to really change the culture in this space. So I think there's small and big ways to be advocates. There is the interpretation, the manager is the interpreter of policy. So if you have a company that has a policy and it's just legalese and it's, not doing much for the people, the way that manager makes it come alive to their team, the way that they put that procedure together and that process that I was just talking about, that's advocacy, because they are literally walking away into how to do this well. And they're showing everyone around them how to do this well. And so by being thoughtful, by making this about a human experience and a workplace experience, right? Making that not just work, like what, checking a tick box of when are you gone and how much you're getting paid. That to me is advocacy. So there's that level. I think I talk about this in the book, but I think about it all the time. I had a client once who she lived in a place in San Francisco where if she left at 5, she could get home in 20 minutes. But if she left at 5:30, it took her an hour and 20 minutes. Like and she was a new mom back at work, and she was talking to me about how important it was for her to leave work. And so we worked on how she was going to talk to her manager about that, blah, blah, blah. So she did. And first few days, weeks back, she was leaving at 5. And then it started to be 5:10 and then 5:15. And it just started to slip. And without her prompting, that boss lottery win of a manager went and stood up. It was an open floor plan, cubicle type room, and left and said, "It's 5 o'clock. Let's go, Alex." I'm not going to say her name. And came over to her desk and had her pack up and walked out the door with her. And he did that every single day for 3 months. And I don't know what happened after those 3 months. I just know she kept going. I didn't check in. Maybe he did it longer. But what he was doing in that moment was advocacy and culture signaling and value signaling, because he wasn't just saying it to her. He was making it visible to every single person on his team, other people who weren't even on his team. He set the standard for what managers are supposed to do for people in that organization. And so I just want to say, do those things. And then you can also go to HR and say, "Hey, our organization is great, and we don't have any manager training on this. We don't have any direction. We are the communicators to the people of this organization and translators of these policies into practice. And we need you to help us do that. We need direction from you so that it is not recreating the wheel with each manager. We need structure. We need some, I'm blanking on the word, but organization, like repeatability, to make this happen." So they can do that. They can advocate in those ways. One of the touch points, all of the touch points that I talk about in the book are they start with the letter A, and one of them just happens to be advocate. So there's another way to advocate that I don't think managers always think about. But when that person is on leave, they don't have anyone advocating for them in their absence. There's no one saying in a team meeting, "Wow, Jeff is so good at that, but he's gone for 3 months, but why don't we hold that for him for when he gets back? Or let's put him up for this role when he's back." There's just no.
Just remember, this was Sally's idea
Exactly.
originally. Yes. Yeah.
Like this was her idea. This was his thing, like being the person who makes them still visible to their team. It's not only sending a message to the organization and to that parent and making sure that their return is better. It's also sending a message to all those other people who are listening to you say that, of like, "Oh, we take care of each other. We look out for each other. We boost each other up. We advocate for each other." And that is how climate turns into a culture.
I love that call to action for multiple reasons, but whether you're going to be a parent or not, everyone has things that they care about outside of their work life. Everybody's going to need to call on their team at one point or another and be the culture you want to have. be the teammate you want to have, be the manager you hope to have. But and then to your other call outs about advocacy is that managers are on the front lines of policy in practice, and they hear and experience things that HR leadership just naturally wouldn't. Um, and I think something important to say to managers is to not be the hero to try and cover it.
Mhm.
Whether that's taking on the work themselves, burning themselves out, working till midnight, or covering for gaps on the team, those pain points need to be felt in order to drive the necessary change.
Excellent point, Mother Cover. Excellent point.
Thank you.
Because it is so true. Like I was saying earlier, those managers often think, I have to just suck it up. I have to burn that midnight oil, stay late. I have to get this done. We can't have there be an issue. And their performance is being reviewed on that many times. That's usually what's happening. So their reasons for that are valid. They're financial, they're career driven. But if that manager ahead of time, before this is even an issue, before they even have a direct report, is going into HR, or HR is listening right now and they're going in and doing it, so that there's a structure, that there's consideration of what's our cover plan? What kind of job design do we understand? What's the baseline that this role has to get covered? What can be handed off here or there? But these pieces, understanding that job design enough to know this needs cover, in those ways, is key, and takes it off of that manager as well.
And the individual going on leave too is often tasked with, well, what is the plan going to be? And they've got a million different things going through their mind at that time. So having a manager being part of that, and then having that bubble up throughout the organization, so it feels like a team sport, even though it's an individual going on leave. Yeah. What are some of the key conversations managers should be having with employees before they go on leave?
Um, Three that come to mind, and because they each serve a little bit of a different purpose, is that first announcement conversation. So like I was saying, what are you doing in that moment? How are you setting this up? What tone are you committing to? So it really matters a lot more than managers are thinking about in that moment. So thinking about that ahead of time, what do you want to say? What is the cadence of meetings that you want to set up over the plan? I like in that first meeting for that manager direct report new partnership. You're in it doing this together with the team, but set all of those meetings up for the next year. Don't think about what are our 3 offboarding meetings
In the last 2 weeks
in
that
the
we should
last 2
do.
weeks. Exactly. Like, how are we going to do this well, and how are we going to stagger it, and 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 then on the return, what does that return look like? How are we going to stagger that return? How are you going to take back your work? So that announcement meeting, uh, it's one, that reaction right away, and then into that first meeting for those planning purposes. But first, don't go into logistics right away. That's my point with making this announcement piece key. Is you're just starting with that human congratulations. Like, I am so thrilled for you. I am, you do not need to worry. We are going to do this. You are going to be fine. I've got your back, right? Like, that's one. That second one is that transition planning conversation, so that you're really then moving into that. I can't remember if I said it on this interview or the earlier one we did, but that 3 phases of transition. So you're talking to them about this as a personal and professional transition that you are planning for, preparing, during, and returning. And that makes it manageable. It doesn't feel so crazy overwhelming. And then you're building in contingency plans. You're building in check-in points where you know that there's some issues. You want to a pre-departure. I actually would say the next one would be a pre-departure conversation, that you're really making sure you've got everything you need, everything set up, and then you're mirroring that pre-departure conversation with a return conversation. Now that this child is here, now that reality is here, how are you? What do you need now? We made those original plans. Are they still effective? Are they still valid? Do we need to change anything? And really demonstrating your flexibility and caring as a people manager.
How do you see managers approach leave coverage planning in a way that supports the team without burning them out, knowing that it's likely role dependent, it could be company size dependent. There's no really one size fits all, but how should they be thinking about the work that needs to get done while somebody is out?
Yeah. Coverage planning without adequate resources always creates strain. Like it just does. And so making that assessment of what are those coverage resources that we were just touching on a little bit. Are there pieces of this that can be handed off to someone? Are there pieces of this that are skill building for someone in a different department who may want to cross train, who may be interested in moving over here at some point? Like, how do we really leverage that learning opportunity I was talking about? But so in the US, because leaves are different lengths, there's different answers. I'm going with like a basic 12 weeks, hopefully. You know, there's a lot of it that can be put on pause. Understanding that job and saying these 6 parts of this job we don't need to do right now. Those can just sit. Like that's not putting it on someone's plate to create extra burnout. It's not moving it to a cover person. But then getting the right team in there. And I know I'm talking to you and you provide this service, but if you're an
It's not meant to be a plug. We're not for everybody. We are a tool in your toolkit.
and an excellent tool. And if you cannot, for whatever reason, hire an external resource, we're helping a lot of organizations these days create internal pools of rotating cover. And so those people start thinking about if that is something you can advocate for in your organization. There are people who have retired or moved on, or they could come back in for cover. There's lots of ways to think about this creatively when you start thinking about how do we not burn out our people. And I think because this is a conversation I'm speaking to the managers, I appreciate that you're thinking about how to not burn out your team. And critically, you have to also be thinking about how to not burn out you. And so your advocacy may have to be on your own behalf as well as on your team and direct report. Okay,
and it's not always that you will only have one of these. You may have another one right around the corner. So you might think you might be able to do heroics for the first one, and then that next one comes faster than you think.
And you will likely have multiple going. I also want to just add one more thing, which is acknowledge the burden that this is. It is not, don't just say it, reward it, bring it up in why did this word just go out of my brain? Your performance reviews, like make it a part of the structure of what you are acknowledging and rewarding. So if your team took on 3 pieces each from Jeff's workload when he was gone, then those 3 team members need an equal acknowledgement, reward, appreciation. All of those things really go far to help with burnout. The quickest path to burnout is resentment from feeling unappreciated and unacknowledged for all of the enormous amount of work you're doing. Like, it's not just the work that causes burnout. It's the emotional reaction to being assumed that you will do it and then not appreciated for it. So that's a very simple, free thing you can do to avoid burnout.
Yeah. And we see that teams are now leaner than they've ever been before. So this is only becoming kind of more exasperated that even a 12-week cover can lead to some pretty significant burnout
Yep.
if it's not thoughtfully approached.
Yep. Agree. Agree. That white knuckling it, that's just,
Yeah.
and so I can't remember which person said this. It might have been Dr. Tubman. This is going to show up on that financial spreadsheet, whether you're paying for it for cover or you're paying for it through your health care and burnout and extra leaves from all the team who had to take a leave once that person gets back. Like, just start thinking about it that way.
Yeah, that's what we talk about with the financial pillar of really looking at the full business case, the costs that go into an unsupported leave versus the investment and return on a supported leave.
Yeah.
So bringing it back to when that employee on your team is returning, what does a strong 30 to 60 days or beyond look like from a manager's perspective? How can you support that re-onboarding? Because we find that that's a piece that's really missing for a lot of organizations. We thought a lot about that person going out and how to cover the work, but now we're bringing them back.
Yes, I understand that everyone wants to focus on the return, but I am just going to keep beating the drum. If you focus on the preparing, if you do it all when you're preparing, you don't have to have bad returns. If you focus on the structure, you don't have to have bad returns. So if you, for example, are creating what I was talking about is that phased exit at the, a lot of people talk about a phased return. I am trying to get people to think about you do it both ways, because if you have cover, having that employee go on a phased exit gives that cover the chance to get their sea legs, but still has them there to ask questions. It allows that parent to let go of things a little more gently than this like hard day in the sand, hard line day. And then that return, if you're flipping that and having that phased reentry, what is that talking to that direct report of yours about what's their favorite thing that they do at work, and have them pick that back up first. What is it that brings them, excitement and pride and meaning in what they're doing? Oftentimes we find that some of the things that were offboarded to someone else, that other person likes to do better, and that person never liked to do in the first place, right? So are there things that can be distributed and kept redistributable? Like, the biggest problem we run into is with returns is managers that are not thinking of this as a full length of time transition, and they're thinking about it as this date on the calendar that someone comes back and they get everything plopped down in their plate again and are expected to be that same person they were when they left. So again, something to say, for decades, that person who returns is not the person who left, and having the mindset as a manager of curiosity and re-engagement in a way that is very similar to how you would onboard a new hire. Like, where are we at now? Who are you? What are you getting out of life? What's lighting you up? What are your tasks? And are there new ways you can think about of doing them that we didn't do before? Like, just going into it with that curiosity, and of course, a welcome back. Like, I often forget to just say basics, but like, welcome back. We are so excited you are here. Letting them know, if you can, through that, if there's a contact person while they're away, that they have been missed, that the world has not moved on without them, that they are valuable to you. That a lot of times managers don't understand how nerve-wracking it is for a parent to leave their role, see other people doing it, assume those other people are doing it better and they won't be needed, but they love their work and they want to go back. And so just knowing and giving those reassurances can go a long way. And then don't assume they don't want to have stretch assignments, that they don't want to travel, that they don't want, you don't know. Just don't assume. Ask, and keep that regular cadence of meetings to check in and say, all right, we're 2 weeks in. How's it going? All right, we're 1 month in. How's it going? What do we need to adjust? What do you need now? because that person's life is also dramatically changing by the day because of the growth of usually a small child. Right? And what's happening? How's their sleep regression going? How's the pumping room working out for you? Don't avoid these conversations. And I think one of the biggest disservices we've done to managers in the United States is, and organizations broadly around this, and parents, is it's this woman's thing that they're supposed to go away and do and come back and not talk about. And that is not at all what we are talking about. It is all parents going through this transition. They are all having a massive thing that is happening that will impact at work. And if you are thinking about work as a silo that isn't being impacted by home and vice versa, we all know that's not true. Let's just stop pretending, right? Let's just have these conversations. How's it going? What do you need right now at work? Because if you're helping them at home, they're going to be able to stay.
And just the loyalty and motivation that brings, I think, is very much underestimated. Of a parent feeling valued and supportive is going to move mountains for you. And I like the call out about acknowledging and having conversations that they are a different person now. But I think sometimes we've come at that as assumption of like, that means something negative in terms of that must mean that they're not motivated anymore. They're not as dedicated, all these things. That is not what it means when we're saying that your employee comes back as a different person, but you have to have those conversations about what is motivating for them. What do they need to feel supported, and be open to what that is.
And I would go point those managers to the leadership lessons of each of those touch points, because your new parent just went through the mother of all leadership development, learning, experiential learning opportunities, right? As we were talking about. And they are very, very real skills that are transferable to the workplace.
I think that's an excellent note to end this on. Thank you again, Amy. This was such a practical and important conversation. I believe managers will take a lot away from this. They play such an enormous role in what parents are experiencing, what the broader team is experiencing. And again, not just on paper, what this actually feels like in practice. So thank you again for sharing your expertise and joining me.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for having me.